Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of the Hare Krishnas in Britain podcast. This is episode number 41. Thank you to everyone who has regularly tuned in every episode over the last year and a half to hear about the stories we've been telling, to meet the devotees we've been meeting here on this podcast. Thank you to everyone who tunes in on a regular basis on Facebook or on YouTube. I'm really pleased. I say this every time that we've got to 41 episodes without being struck off air. And we've had some fantastic devotees on this show over the last 18 months to share their stories with us. And this podcast is about that. It's about devotees around the UK sharing their stories with us. And I'm really pleased to welcome our 41st guest this week. His name is Paramananda Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Dandavat.
Dandavat pranams. It's great to have you with us. I really appreciate you coming on the show this week. We met, I think we first met in the flesh a couple of months ago, at the maybe even before that. Yeah, at the Bhakti Yoga Institute, which is a beautiful Hare Krishna temple at Hatton Cross, next to Terminal 4 of Heathrow Airport.
Yeah.
It's a great find. I love to go there, and we met there some time ago. You and I are both hanging out there with the devotees.
Chatting away,
So let's start by telling us a bit about you and where you're from.
Okay, I was born in 1956 in North Wales, a place called Ruthin, small town. And my father was English, he was in the RAF, and my mother's Welsh. So basically, my father was killed when I was 4, because we kind of travelled around the air bases. And after that, we moved back to Wales. So basically, I grew up in Wales, in Ruthin. I went to school, Green Harvard School in Ruthin. And we attended, I used to, kind of not forced to go, but we were taken to a Welsh-speaking chapel, Methodist chapel. So it was like brought up in it was my mother's mother was very strict and not very kind of religious, which kind of, in a way, was a bit too much. But she was a lovely lady, and she affected, she kind of inspired me in a lot of ways. So basically, when I was 19, I left Ruthin and I went and moved to Sheffield. And then I met some devotees in Manchester. And there's one devotee.
At the age of 19? At the age of 19, you met devotees?
No, sorry, no. This is 1975 when I moved to Sheffield. I left, and in 1982, I met the devotees. Well, before then, I saw devotees, and they affected me in different ways. I was probably rude to them on the street when they stopped me a couple of times. And I remember when I moved to Sheffield, a friend of mine came over from Wales, and somebody had been asking them, "Where's Paul? Where's Paul?" And one of them said, "Oh, he's going to join the Hare Krishnas." I went, "What?" I said, "I haven't gone that crazy yet," because I thought that's really random. Why was that? Anyway, I completely forgot it. Loads of other things happened before I actually met this devotee in Manchester who preached at me for 3 days solid, and eventually convinced me to try chanting Hare Krishna and buy a Bhagavad Gita. So basically, that's how it started in 1982. And then I went in 1983, I went to Chaitanya College, not far from you.
And did you live there? Did you live at Chaitanya College?
Well, I did the 3-month Bhakti Programme. But I did visit there before in the summer of 83, just to see what it was like. And I obviously loved it there. And I decided to do the Bhakti Programme, which is a 3-month. Under a devotee called Rohini Nandan, who's very well known. That was great. And then I left to go back to Sheffield. So after that, I was still chanting, still, consider myself, that I'm trying to follow this path. In 1985, I met a Prabhupada disciple called Sukama, who gave me these, who lent me his Sridhar Maraj books. But during all that time, there were a load of devotees in Sheffield who were in that circle, my circle, and that kind of influenced me as well. It made me think, wow, there's more to this Hare Krishna that meets the eye, really. It's quite amazing, So carrying on chanting, and then after, so I went to Chaitanya College, and then I met this devotee called Sukama, who was a Prabhupada disciple, and he lent me the books, the Search for Sri Krishna by Sridhar Maraj, and Sri Guru and His Grace. And they were like really revolutionary. I mean, the Prabhupada stuff's brilliant, obviously, as well. That was revolutionary as well. But this it was a different angle on it, but very sweet and just amazing, So it was just there in the corner of my mind, and then Sukama used to write to Sridhar Maraj, and he'd get letters back, and you could see the letters, read the letters from him. And anyway, then through Sukama, I met Chaitanya Maraj, who's Chaitanya Maraj now, who's formerly Shabda Brahma in ISKCON a long time ago. He was ISKCON, and then he was Saranga Murari, and then now he's obviously Chaitanya Maraj. And he arranged for us to go to India in 1989.
Was that your first visit to India in 1989?
Yeah. And I've not been since. It's too hot for me, but I loved it there.
It's too hot for me as well.
Yeah. I was there for over 2 months. I mean, I could have stayed longer, but for some various reasons I had to come back. But then I was given Harinam by Srila Govinda Maraj. And that changed my life as well. People were telling me, it's going to change your life. I was going, whatever. I really thought, obviously I thought, but I didn't realize it would. Because I mean, at that time, I just stopped smoking, things like that. And I really wanted to stop smoking. And that, I mean, I know it doesn't seem, that's why you should that Harinam, but I had no more desire to smoke at all. So that, to me, that was a miracle. For me, that was a miracle. So I then came back, and I still go to ISKCON temples, like Soho Street. I always go to Karuna Bhavan up in Scotland, which I really like up there as well. I haven't been for a while, like about 8 years, I think, last time I went. So where are we?
That's amazing. Just a few things to pick up. I mean, the first thing just to say is I also have a Methodist background as well. And it's quite interesting. Quite a few devotees have a Methodist background. And not that we go around with a big label saying Methodist background, but there's certainly those of us that I know that are Methodist by background, we're quite similar in our approach to Krishna consciousness. It's much more of I don't want to overuse the word liberal, but it's more of an inclusive, progressive approach. I mean, I know two quite well-known, I won't say their names necessarily, but two very well-known devotees, senior devotees in ISKCON that have got Methodist backgrounds that are also very...
Right.
Yeah, you can just tell by their approach, they're kind of got that kind of nonconformist. We're nonconformists by background.
Yeah, that's it. Well, I only read up because of the... I went to the chapel and I didn't, because it was all in Welsh as well. Don't forget. It's all in Welsh, and I didn't understand most of it, even though my mum's family were all Welsh speaking, and that was the first language, my first language. So it wasn't that it was just somewhere I had to go. Well, I went, so I'm not had to go, but in a way, because you're a kid, you get told to go, But then I looked up, for this interview, and I thought, it's a Methodist chapel, so that's interesting.
And I guess for any of our listeners or viewers that are not aware with Methodist Christianity, it's kind of a offshoot of Protestant Anglican Christianity. It's kind of nonconformist Protestant. I wouldn't say it's Puritan. It's not Puritan in the sense that it's I went to a Methodist church for about 5, 6, 7 years as a teenager, and I never once heard a sermon about hellfire and brimstone. That wasn't taught. It was more about social action. How can you love God? How can you love people? That was kind of, and the Methodist church are kind of, I wouldn't say theologically liberal, but by their practice, they're very inclusive. So if anyone that's kind of listening or watching, not sure what Methodist Christianity is,
but there's another chapel that my brother was christened in the other chapel in the town, which was a Presbyterian one. So I don't think they were like specifically, and that's a very interesting chapel as well. It's like a round building. It's amazing. It's got a lot of history to it. But I was christened in Church of England in Southport.
Wow.
Southport near, because my father was English, obviously. So, his family was in Southport, my grandparents. So it turned out that I was christened in the C of E.
Can I ask a question?
After my father,
go. I was just going to ask a question about, you've mentioned a kind of trying to draw things out in our conversation here. You've mentioned a Prabhupada disciple called Sukama. And the Sukama was writing to Srila Sridhar Maharaj in the 1980s. Was that a common thing at the time, or was he a little bit niche in terms of he was one of the very few that was doing it?
That's a very good question, because we had the Namahat programs in Sheffield, which were great. Like people like Kripamoy used to come up, and Indriyesha and his brother, I can't remember his name.
Is it Ramananda, I think?
Yeah.
Twin brother.
Something like that, yeah. It's a long time since I've seen them. Anyway, I think somebody found out that we were reading Sridhar Maharaj's books, and there was something said. It wasn't like heavy, but well, you shouldn't be doing that, really. Sort of thing. But like if they read, since then it's completely changed. Like Kripamoy came to the Hatton Cross initial opening and gave a talk, and it was great, and a lot, like when I go to Karuna Bhavan, they're very respectful. And so to me, that was the time. That was a good question about then, those times, in the 80s, mid 80s. There was like it wasn't heavy at all, but it was like there was that kind of thing, oh well, you shouldn't be reading books like that,
I mean, unfortunately, you still get that in some corners of ISKCON. I wouldn't say it's widespread in ISKCON, but you get that in some corners of ISKCON. But yes, generally things are a little bit better now in 2022. There are still pockets of ISKCON that are quite evangelical and quite conservative and, institutional. But it's a bit better elsewhere, thankfully. And you also, just one final question for you before we go on. You received Harinam initiation from Govinda Maraj in 1989, was it? In 90?
1989, yeah, November 25th.
Wow. And again, if our viewers and listeners are unsure of who Govinda Maraj was, he was the successor of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. He was president Acharya of the Sri Chaitanya College for about 20 years or so. Quite 22 years, quite a long time. He joined when he was 17 with Sridhar Maharaj, and he worked under Prabhupada as well quite a lot. Prabhupada when Prabhupada was a householder, he'd take him out. You probably know that anyway. Yeah, and a very interesting fact. Anyone watching or viewing can find this on the internet very easily. Srila Govinda Maraj was the very first distributor of the Back to Godhead magazine. So
that's what he told me. He sent me a letter, because I wrote to him saying after the Harinam, and I went to Karuna Bhavan because I asked him, is it all right to go to ISKCON? He says, no problem. If people are respectful, no problem. I have no problem with that. So I went, and the time I went, first time after being to India, we were distributing Go Back to Godheads in towns and around Karuna Bhavan, in like house to house. Wow. So I wrote to him telling him, he goes, oh well, I was the first distributor of Back to Godhead in a letter. But in those days it was like airmail letters, not the internet stuff.
Fascinating stuff. So sorry, I kind of cut you off just trying to fill in some of the gaps there. But so in terms of 1989, So you, at that point, you had been initiated by Govinda Maraj, the kind of leader at the time of the Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat, and you were still kind of circulating in ISKCON circles. And, and that was working well, was it, in the early 90s? It was going.
Yeah, because I was a really good friend. He's a Sri Maharaj disciple. He was a householder, Madam Manohar. He lived in Sheffield with his wife, and he became a really good friend of mine. And we, he's passed away now. He passed away in Vrindavan. We used to go to the Namahat program still, carry on doing this. Paul and Carol, who were at the time in Sheffield, they live up in Scotland now. They do the programs even in their house or in the Hindu temple or in the Victoria Place Hall in the centre of Sheffield, So we were doing that, and then in 1999 I moved back down to London. So
wow.
And now I go to Soho Street a lot, and the Manor when I can,
So you've been in the Hare Krishna movement for about 40 years.
Good Lord.
Quite a long time. It's
like
2022.
I'm still useless. Sorry, no.
No, you're not useless.
Pretending to be humble. Pretending to be humble.
You're not useless at all. So what's kind of kept you in the movement that long? Why have you been around that long?
That's a very good question, and one I can't really answer. It's just, I guess it's what you get from it. That's all I can say. It's a sublime process. Whatever you are, whether you're in, I've learned a lot. And it's like Krishna's taught me loads, over like being in ISKCON and what was happening there, and how to deal with things, problems that come up. They always come up in the material world, how to deal with them. And if you do your sadhana every day, I find that, it's like you're kind of above it. Not in a smug way, but like above the, you're protected, you feel protected. And you feel like you're going somewhere. You've got a goal, So obviously goal is when we leave our body. Which yesterday, a good friend of mine from my school days passed away, same age as me. It's like a memento mori, you're like always thinking, especially when you get older, you think, it's coming soon, So, but there's no fear with Krishna. You're kind of saying, well, bring it on, Or please be gentle with it, but bring it on. So
yeah, definitely. I mean,
it is what it is. What it says. Go on, sorry.
I mean, on the one hand, I don't want to sound sad when I say this, but very few people or very few Westerners join the Hare Krishna movement or join Krishna consciousness in Western countries. So that's one. And two, for them to stay for so long is great. It's fantastic. And all applaud to you for kind of sticking around for 40 years.
Well, I guess it helps to be thick-skinned as well, and I guess tolerance, the basic things of Krishna consciousness are very simple, tolerance, respect to others. And of course, we've got a vast, unlimited scriptures and Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. We've got all that. It's vast and it's infinite, obviously, but it can be condensed, to a very simple way of life, and try and be humble. Obviously, do some sadhana, and try and. What Prabhupada said, he gave the formula there, and it's very simple, Sometimes, like we were talking earlier, people make it more complicated than it is. Because you read Prabhupada so wonderful, because it's just like you chant Hare Krishna. The books are there. You can associate with me. So he's a pure devotee. So you're associating with him by his instructions and and by studying how he lived. I love listening to his morning walks. When I'm at work, I just put the thing on. I can hear, like in LA, you can hear the ocean going. It's magic. It's magic, and he's so funny. When he's the walks are the best, I think, because he's so funny and like informal.
On your comment about I think lots of books to read. There is so many in terms of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, Bhakti Yoga. There are so many scripture is a very religious word. There are so many scriptures to read, and then you've got the different books of the acharyas, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Maraj, Srila Govinda Maharaj. There are so many books to read. There's kind of always something to do. I mean, sometimes I get to 6 or 7 in the evening and I think I've got a bit of time to myself. I shouldn't think that way. I've always got lots and lots of books to read I haven't read yet. And it's funny that you mentioned those books of Srila Maharaj. I've got them here on the shelf, and I'm currently reading actually Sermons of the Guardian of Devotion by Srila Maharaj.
That which number is that? Is that number 1 or 2?
This is volume 2. This is volume 2. Okay. So I'm halfway through at the moment. I'd love to read more if I had the time, but I'm finding it fascinating.
Well, just a bit a day is fine. I find it like just a little bit. You just make sure, well, for me anyway, I make sure that I read some. You know? But then I'm reading Mahabharata and I just get carried away. I can't stop reading it.
Do you read a lot like on a daily basis?
Not necessarily all Krishna conscious. I've got a lot of interests. Like I write music and I like to do film and stuff. I read a lot of stuff. Not always, but I always read Shastra every day. But I do read lots of stuff. Did
you just say you write music, Paramananda Prabhu?
I dabble.
So, I mean, have you written songs? Have you written songs?
I'm a songwriter, and I'm always studying music, like composition and film music. I'm particularly interested in at the moment because I'm trying to make films. I've done a few like sort of amateurish kind of films.
Wow.
Which are on YouTube channel. Yeah.
So what kind of films do you make? I didn't know this about you before we did this. I'm really fascinated by this.
Well, you remember Raghunandan you had on?
Yeah.
The clairvoyant.
Yeah.
Well, I did it, like I said to you, I did an interview with him. I've not actually uploaded it yet at all. But I want to do a sort of documentary with him or a series. But I also do. I've also done films with the Orpheus Centre which it was like Sir Richard Stilgoe's. It's like a college for disabled young adults, and they specify it in performance art and different things like that. Although it's changed a lot because I met in my previous job, which is caretaker in Fulham. I've got a friend called Rory. He's got cerebral palsy, but he's one of the first students of that centre. So I've done a few films about that, like they have performances and stuff. So I've done a few films on that, and 3 or 4 or 5 films. It's quite interesting. I mean, I'm not saying the films are interesting. I mean, but the place itself is interesting. How amazing some of the students, that they've got autism and stuff, but they're so kind of talented. The singing is amazing.
Wow.
So films about that, and I obviously want to do more sort of. I like sort of satire and stuff. I like to do sort of satire based on, roughly on Krishna consciousness, things like Jaiva Dharma, because a lot of stuff is funny, in Krishna consciousness. It's like very funny, like Jaiva Dharma, some funny stuff, and then how he like the devotees interacting with the like puffed up materialists and stuff. But that's in the pipeline. Whether it happens is Krishna's will.
It's fascinating. I didn't actually know you were a filmmaker. I've got lots of great ideas for films.
I saw you sort of talking about on one of your posts. I think it was on Facebook or something. I didn't really know you that well then. I hadn't met you or anything.
Yeah.
So I was.
Yeah. I mean,
I was watching your.
Yeah. we can maybe chat after this podcast or another time.
Yeah.
But I've got a documentary in my head that needs to be made, and maybe we could do something together. I've actually just I realize we're going off on a tangent now, but I've just written, so in my book, which you've kindly bought in the Hare Krishnas in Britain, I wrote a chapter on I wrote a chapter on the 1930s in Britain, and through various sources I identified that 39 Drayton Gardens in Kensington was the location of the first ever Hare Krishna temple in UK. And I did like a Facebook Live from the location. It's almost 2 years ago. It's crazy. And I've just got round about 3 weeks ago. I've just got round to actually writing to the owners of the house to basically say, this is who I am. I've written a book. A, do you know your house was a Hare Krishna temple? B, if so, is there any sign of that? Which I doubt, actually. I think they more rented the space. And 3, can I come and visit? And I haven't mentioned 4 in the letter, but I'd love to make a short film about it. I mean, no one's ever done that before. I'm not aware that any. I mean, I'm not aware that any devotee from any mat or any sangha has kind of been to 39 Drayton Gardens. I mean, I know that.
I'm fascinated by stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
You've actually, have you written yet to them or not?
I have written to them. I'm kind of waiting for a response. I mean, I know that as well as myself, I know that Ranchor Prime did a When the Sun Shines, which is this one here, which had a bit of, he's based in Glastonbury now, a bit about the 1960s, but I'm not aware that he really looked into 39 Drayton Gardens in that much depth. So it will be quite historic if I can go there and do some filming. So we want.
Well, I wouldn't mind coming along. I'll come along.
Yeah, maybe I could take you with me. We could take like a crew of devotees. Try and be as normal as possible.
I can be normal as anybody.
I try and be as normal as much as possible. So let's talk a bit about. So now you and I have met at the Bhakti Yoga Institute, which is run by the Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat. You also regularly go to Soho Street, which is an ISKCON temple. Do you go there often? Do you go there regularly? Yeah,
well, I mean, myself and my crazy friends, we go there. We go to Govinda's, and quite often, if the timing's right, we go up for the arti, the evening arti, and then we'll go. Especially if it's on Saturday, we're on Hare Krishna. So that's kind of, you know, I got a group of friends who were kind of starting to get interested in Krishna consciousness, you know. And it's good because I remember when I first started getting into it, you know, like, and I think Neera, your friend Neera, she put a really good post this morning on Facebook about how we shouldn't drive people away. Prabhupada said, don't drive people away, you know, when they first come, you know, don't kind of get heavy and fill their heads. But Prabhupada used to say that, you know, they can just chant, you know, that's good enough to start off. Yeah. So basically, I love going to Soho Street. It's a great place, you know, right in the centre of London.
It's really good. I did a
film. Yeah, I did a. We went a few weeks ago. A really nice Hare Krishna we went, and so I've got it on film as well. So that was good.
Wow, it's really good.
Chinatown.
Yeah, the Saturday night Hare Krishnas are wonderful. They're very enlivening and energizing, and I'd encourage.
It's my favorite Hare Krishna is my favorite. You know, I remember in Chaitanya College, used to love going out. You know, to go all the local towns. We even got arrested in Birmingham
for chanting on the streets.
They put us in the nick for about 2 or 3 hours.
Wow.
And then we had to go to court. And the magistrate just threw it out. So what are you wasting our time for? You know, to the coppers who arrested us, like really chastised them. You know, what are you wasting our time for?
So what were you actually arrested for? Was it kind of breaching the peace?
Yeah, they were trying to say it was like, because it was on the streets, the Hare Krishna and the shops. I think maybe it's the shopkeepers maybe complained or something, I don't know. and some kind of obstruction or some description. I don't know.
Mm.
They
Yeah.
need to come to Soho Street, don't they? Check that out.
Yeah. I mean, you often hear stories like that of devotees being arrested for chanting on the streets, you know, and these days in 2022, you think that why did that even happen at the time?
Yeah.
And B, it wouldn't happen these days. I mean, I'd be very surprised. You know, we're living in one of the good things I think about, it's nice about living in the UK is you can kind of be any religion that you want, you can say what you want, you know, and the police just kind of, it's the last thing they do, arrest someone for chanting Hare Krishna in the streets.
Well, they're used to it now. They're used to it.
Yeah.
Seen it so before. I mean, even when I first saw them, I thought, these crazy guys, you know. but when I was in a festival, I used to see them giving out free foods. I thought, wow, you know, that's cool.
Mm.
You know, there must be something there. They're just giving free food out, you know. That's really good.
So I've got a few more questions for you. One is, how do you think we could attract more people to Krishna consciousness? You and I obviously think it's a wonderful philosophy. We're kind of bought into it. What can we do to attract more people to the movement?
Well, there's the obviously now we've got all the, you know, the what do you call it, Facebooks and stuff, social, whatever you call it. There's that's quite good for preaching, and then just the traditional stuff. There's the Harinam. There's the what you're doing is good, I think, because you're that's why I like your project. It's got a good kind of goal to it, you know, to like get people in the far off corners of the country. I mean, obviously there are people doing it already, like, you know, you've got Karuna Baba and, you know, all the ISKCONs and our lot as well. They do, you know, they do food for life, stuff like that, and they do Harinams. They have programs. Are you still coming to? Are you coming to the one in Camberley?
Yes, I shall be there.
That'll be really good.
I love Camberley as well. It's a great town. Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to that. And Madhusudan Maraj, it's like, that'll be a really good talk. You know,
I guess
he can preach.
I guess the challenge is trying to make Krishna consciousness as accessible and as inclusive as possible, without moving away from the foundations of without compromising, without moving away from the foundations of Krishna. Exactly. And that's kind of, it's a challenge. I don't know if challenge is the right word, but I use this often as an example. I mean, I use this in the last podcast. Christianity is, whatever people think of Christianity, is a great example of that. Christianity has survived for 2,000 years because the message of Christianity has not changed, but the way it's presented has changed. You know, it's adapted, it's molded. And there's different types of Christianity. And people generally accept that's the norm these days.
Sorry, go on.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
With Krishna consciousness, it's internal anyway. Spiritual life is an internal thing, and I love seeing, you know, devotees and dotees and stuff like that. For me, and I've got dotees and Krishna clothes, you know, but practically I prefer to wear Western in West because of the temperature. When I'm in India, there's no way I could wear these things. You know, even this is too thick to be when you're in India. So wearing a dhoti and a kurta is common sense, you know, and shaving your head and stuff. But so, you know, it's such an internal thing, and it's a household thing. You know, like people can chant wherever they are, whatever they're doing. That's how my experience. And it can just improve your life so much. You know, it's just like, it's unbelievable what it does, you know. How it, you know, and everybody's individual, obviously, and that's how it should be. Everybody has their own unique relationship with the Lord, you know? So I agree.
And
although, you know, go on.
No, you go ahead. It's fine.
No, I was just going to say. So that's what I said. I like seeing the devotees in the gear, you know, in Hare Krishna clothes. It's great. It's lovely. Because I remember I was at a free festival in Windsor in 1974. I just got out of the car and there's this huge Hare Nam coming towards us. And they're all in saffron. It just looked amazing and it sounded great, you know. And that was one of the first times I thought, wow, that's cool, you know, it's so good. But then I forgot, obviously. I just carried on. But that affected me when I started, you know, understanding it and trying to follow it. That things like that I remember, you know, and how great they seem, you know. It's a wonderful experience seeing that. Transcendental, I guess.
I should have asked this question earlier on, but I'll ask it now. So when you joined the Hare Krishna movement, when you joined the devotees back in 1982, what did your family think about it?
My mum knows I've always known I've been. My mum's still with us, 92. She's 92 in North Wales, still going very strong.
Wow.
And I'll have a chat with her. I will talk to her after speaking with you, because I speak with her every day. She's always been great. You know, she knows I'm a bit crazy in that sense. Crazy. She's used to me being like an unorthodox, and my brother was the same. So she got used to it. She just relaxed. Okay, you know, these guys are like this, you know. So, and she came to Chaitanya College with my stepdad. When I was there in the program, you know, and then when Gurudev was here in London in the 90s, they came down. They didn't actually get to see him because you know how small Green Street is, and I think Gurudev was resting at the time. But you know, my mum's always been like really sort of favourable and understanding, and obviously because I stopped smoking and stuff like taking intoxicants and stuff like that. I mean, who can like complain about that?
Exactly. I mean, I often say to some people, you don't hear it so much these days when you hear some stories about parents being, I don't know, unhappy about their children joining the Hare Krishna movement. You kind of got to be rational about it. You know, they've joined the Hare Krishna, which is a kind of peace-loving vegetarian movement. You know, we're not terrorists. We're not going around hurting people or killing people. It's just the Hare Krishnas. You know, we're actually trying to promote peace and non-violence. Non-violence. We're not promoting violence in any way. And actually, we're not. And we're not, or we shouldn't be sectarian. You know, we don't believe that our way is the only way.
Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said, we accept all the other religions, the aspects that coincide with the Vaishnava religion, you know, which is a lot of it. You got, especially Christianity, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur, they were very favourable to us, and they seem very close to Vaishnavas, and Gurudev used to say, you know, like the humility, the tolerance. Although non-violence, I mean, if you read Mahabharata and the Gita, that I guess there's some, you know, some aspects. Well, obviously in Mahaprabhu's time, it's pretty non-violent, isn't it? Chanting. He was Nimai Pandit, which he destroyed the mentality, not the people, with sound, logic, argument.
So, Paramananda Prabhu, what are your kind of thoughts on the future of the Hare Krishna movement? Would you say that we're moving in the right direction? Would you say more needs to be done? Particularly in the West, what are your thoughts on the future of the movement?
Well, that's a really good question, but I mean, whatever's happening, I just continue. It's not. I mean, I'm always optimistic. You know, I mean, like Govinda Maraj said that, or even Sridhar Maharaj said that they used to talk about, you know, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was the Western world, the whole world, everybody will chant Hare Krishna, and they kind of, it must be sometime, you know, but not in our time, you know. But it happens, you know, and they were surprised. Not pleasantly surprised. So I'm always optimistic. Even if I see, what I see more and more devotees being made. So along the way, so that I guess it's up to us and up to Krishna, I suppose. But I mean, I can't really. I couldn't say, oh yeah, I think this and I think that, and I just think I'm not kind of qualified to sort of, say, oh, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. But I'm always optimistic. I think there's a golden age coming. Whether it's in my lifetime, I don't know. But Prabhupada said these books will be the law books for 10,000 years. So if a pure devotee speaks, it'll come true.
I kind of very much like your philosophical approach, and you've very strongly spoken from a position of faith, which is the term we don't often use in Krishna consciousness. You very well, you remind us of these kind of prophecies that every town and village people will chant Hare Krishna, and I often feel that I need to be reminded of that, because I get kind of, I'm kind of a stats man. How are we doing? How's it going?
Well, that's why I like your book. I like stats as well. It's not that I don't like stats. But Sridhar Maharaj said, faith is the actual concrete substance. Because the materials will think, faith, what's faith? Even though they have faith every day when they catch the bus or whatever, drive out somewhere, that they'll get to their destination. But faith is, in the spiritual sense, is the concrete, the essence, and it's the most important thing. It's the foundation, but it's also, it's always there, and it's the strongest thing.
I think because I've kind of worked in kind of marketing, I'm very much like, I want to see results straight away. I want to see things happening. So you you get kind of downhearted when you don't see things happening. You're trying stuff, you're preaching, you're doing Harinams. But it was interesting. He's left us now, but back to Churu Swami, who was a guru in ISKCON. He gave a fantastic talk a couple of years ago at a ISKCON event in Leicester, I think it was, where he pointed out that Christianity took 300 years to kind of take root. It was mainly through, people converted via the sword rather via peaceful means. But he made a good point that from the time of Jesus, it was 300 years. And he was obviously using Prabhupada as that starting point. But, if we go back, let's go back to 1918 with the foundation of the Gaudiya Math with Bhakti Maharaj. Okay, so we're 100 years into that. We've got another 200 years. But I felt a bit better after being reminded of that. The Christianity took 300 years to take root.
Hopefully Krishna consciousness is more like concentrated and more potent. So hopefully it'll happen quicker. But and we're all eternal anyway. So I think a lot of people have been born into the Krishna consciousness. They've all been there, and who knows who's like surrounding us and who's in the world, disguised as whatever. Like when Mahaprabhu was here, great personalities from all over the world and the higher realms that would come down disguised, as just ordinary people.
I'm certainly encouraged by your faith, with your shraddha in Krishna consciousness, which is fantastic.
Only the mercy of Guru really, and Vaishnavas and stuff. Otherwise, when I think, well, what we've come from, we've come from like the sort of cow killing culture, the mlechas, and just fortunate. It's just, with me anyway, it's causeless mercy. It's not that I intelligently thought, oh yeah, that's Krishna consciousness. It's like Krishna did it, out of mercy, and the Vaishnava, Gurudev, just picks us up. Prabhupada came over on a boat, having heart attacks, just to liberate us. And sometimes you think, that's amazing, isn't it?
Would you like to see kind of better collaboration or communication between the mats, between in the world, the Western world.
Of course, yeah, I'm always for that.
Yeah. It's certainly something that I'd like to see more of. Is certainly the approach that I've taken to some of the stuff that I do over the last 4 or 5 years. Some people will know my story. I was involved with Christianity, I think probably in my late teens or early 20s. And I became quite scarred. I was involved with this evangelical church after my time with the Methodist church. Yeah. And I was quite scarred by my experiences because they really drummed into you that Jesus was the only way. And in the end, I kind of literally and metaphorically just ran away and thought, this is very difficult for me to understand. And I made a vow to myself never to join any movement ever again that preaches it's the only way.
Yeah.
So when
we don't say it's the only way. We don't say it's the only way, but we say it's the highest way. It's the original way. It's the eternal way. And everything else is kind of an offshoot of it.
Yeah.
Which is, we're not saying, we don't condemn other religions.
So I get a little bit discouraged when I still see that in when I see that in Gaudiya Vaishnavism or in the Krishna Consciousness movement. This, in some circles, there's this kind of sectarian approach that we're the only way. But it's good that there's a lot of us that are pushing.
I think it's to be expected. In this world, people wake up slower than others. Realize certain things eventually, but they don't. Necessarily, I don't know. There's probably things that I shouldn't think, but I know that, because I've changed over the years. I've thought different things, and then like 10 years later, I'm thinking, well, I used to think that, I used to actually think and believe it. But Christianity was great. Even I didn't really take going to that chapel seriously. I used to go, and it wasn't like a major trauma or anything, but I've always had my own, I've always prayed, read religious books, read the Bible, and my mother's father was like that. He didn't really like his wife, my grandmother, used to go to the chapel regularly like that, and she's a bit fanatical about it, but he used just to sit there and read the Bible, quietly, and just say, look, just mind your own business, things like that. Which, I thought, yeah, that's common sense, and that was like, rather than just to say Christianity, I've read even Islamic stuff, which, so, I wouldn't condemn Christianity. It's like the primary school or the junior school, isn't it? Sridhar Maraj would say, we don't disrespect the teacher from the primary school or the junior school who taught us the fundamentals. We shouldn't disrespect. We still remember them as helped us on the way.
It's fascinating. Yeah, it's fascinating to hear your story. I think you and I are very similar in different ways in terms of our Methodist upbringing.
That was interesting.
Yeah. And I look back on my Methodist upbringing with fondness, actually. And I don't know, sometimes you think things off the cuff, don't you? When I'm having a bad day or I'm getting annoyed with, I don't know, should I admit this, a devotee, or getting annoyed with something in the Hare Krishna, I think, I'm going to start going back to church now, and I think,
some people do,
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Because of that, they can't handle the politics sometimes, but the way I see it, you just find who you like, and if you can't be with anyone at the time anyway, sometimes you're on your own, you think, it doesn't matter, I just carry on chanting, carry on reading, never give up, never, it's like Krishna's in your heart. But like, I've met loads of devotees in my time, and I don't particularly like a lot of them, but I respect them, and I don't have to mix with them. I can give them respect from afar, and the ones who are the same as me, will mix with those and be inspired and carry on, and that helps,
Mm.
But
I kind of like you. I kind of like
Well,
you're kind of I would, maybe the word is stoic. I kind of see you as quite stoic in the sense you just kind of get on with it. And that's one of the reasons. I mean, I don't want to kind of get into your mind too much. One of the reasons you've kind of survived for 40 years is you've just kind of got on with it, really. And it's your sadness.
There's always something there. There's always it's a test. Krishna gives a test. In Chaitanya Bhagavat, Mahaprabhu said, don't ever see, you see devotees being, arguing, they've got different viewpoints. Just ignore it. It's Krishna playing tricks. You should always respect the Vaishnavas. And you read, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and there's some devotees that cannot tolerate hearing anything against a devotee. So there's different moods, isn't there? They can't tolerate it, and there's differences. I've known differences between, great. In the stories, like Jiva Goswami and Rupa Goswami, a materialist or somebody, another reading that, I think, wow, that's heavy, But they were both right in their way, and it eventually harmonized. And we shouldn't see, Rupa Goswami is wrong, Jiva Goswami is wrong. No, they're both right. They both did what they knew for them was the right thing. So
I kind of like that approach. It's kind of inclusive relativism, isn't it? I mean, in terms of
change what you can change, but if you can't change it, what can you do? You just Krishna consciousness is everything, really. That and that's not being fanatical. That's just what it is, because it fits everything. Anybody can do it, whatever they're doing. I mean, Prabhupada said that.
Yeah, definitely.
You don't have to give anything up. You don't give anything up. Just do it. Whatever you're doing, what are you working? Whatever you're working as.
Just
and it will make you, whatever you're doing, make you better. Yeah. And that's why it's universal as well, because it's not like, only certain amount of people can do it. Only the people in the temple can do it. No, you make your home a temple. Somebody said, you've been to the temple recently? I just, my home's a temple. And I've been to the temple, the other temple. His Hatton Cross is so wonderful, isn't it? And even the Green Street's good, was a bit small, and Soho Street, that's small, but it's wonderful,
Well, believe it or not, Paramananda Prabhu, we've been chatting for almost 1 hour. Right. And it's been fascinating to hear your story this week on the Hare Krishnas in Britain podcast. It's been particularly fascinating to hear about your background, what's kind of kept you going, particularly in the Hare Krishna over 40 years. I kind of like I'm very encouraged by your kind of very simplistic approach to Krishna consciousness. You kind of just get on with it. A lot of devotees maybe get caught with baggage, with emotions, with someone's done me wrong, someone's done me down, and you just kind of get on with it, which I think is very encouraging, actually, and something we can all learn from.
Hopefully. It's not because I'm any good in the sense that it's all mercy. It's just something that you have to do, I guess. It's not. You're going through the mill, and basically Krishna puts you through the mill, and you think, well, he's testing it here. I'm just got to carry on, whatever. Because you've had the kind of glimpse, you've had the taste, at certain times in your life, and you think, wow, this is amazing. And then when things are going badly, that's the test. You have to carry on, even though you're not sort of necessarily feeling any ecstasy or whatever. you know, because it's basically serving Krishna, isn't it? Not that I'm doing it for my enjoyment. That I like, you know, obviously the result is that is ecstasy, is pleasure, because all the souls want that. So and that's the highest pleasure. You know, that's the advert. This is the highest pleasure. So you have to stick with it, I guess.
Mm. Mm. Well, I really appreciate just one last thing to say. So when I saw you last at the temple, maybe a month or two ago or three, time goes quick. I remember we did a video call with your mum on the phone, and that was fantastic. Yeah. It was great to chat with her. Yeah. Grand youthful age of 92. Great memory I have of that day, actually. It was great to chat to your mum.
It was great. That was a good day, that. Very good day.
What was the occasion? I can't remember now. Was it a certain festival?
Was it
Guru Purnima? Was it that really that long ago? Or was it was it a certain Acharya's appearance day?
Could be Guru Dev's appearance.
Yeah.
That'd have been around Christmas though.
No, it wasn't that long ago. Maybe it was as far as goes March. I don't know. We were doing something anyway, but it was I remember the highlight of that day was chatting to your mum on WhatsApp. Age 92.
Do watch this. I'll tell her to watch this.
You can send her the link. So yeah, we've been chatting for almost an hour. Paramananda Prabhu, it's been great to have you as the guest this week and sharing your story with us. I think I have to look back. I think you're the first disciple of Srila Govinda Maraj that we've had on the show. I think, I'm not quite sure. We might have had one other in the past.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Oh, no, sorry, you're not. Kanu Priya, about a year ago, my goodness, Kanu Priya, a disciple of Govinda Maraj. I think she now lives in South London. She's an artist. Used to run an art gallery. She did come. Wow, that was a year ago. That's gone quick.
Amazing,
yeah, I wasn't quite sure that you were the first, but no, she was the first. And yeah, and I've another devotee also from the Sri Chaitanya Sarasat Mat. I've also had a chat with him as well. So this is kind of an inclusive podcast. Anyone, well, not anyone's welcome, but anyone within the kind of
within reason.
Anyone in the kind of Gaudiya.
Well, I hope I've behaved myself.
Yeah, and it's been really fascinating to hear your story.
And don't forget the book.
Actually, I've got copies of my book.
It's great. I mean, I like stuff like this. It's just brilliant.
I haven't actually plugged it for a while, but the Hare Krishnas in Britain is available on Amazon. You can buy it as in kind of paper edition, paperback, or hard copy rather, or on Kindle. And it's been on Amazon for well over a year now, and I've sold about 180, 200 copies. It's been fascinating, and some of you might have read my controversial conclusion at the back, is that what I'm being sarcastic.
Whatever when it first came out.
Whatever mat you're in, whatever sangha you're in, let's just chant Hare Krishna together. For some devotees, that's unfortunately
I'm all for that.
For some devotees, it's been a bit controversial, which is a bit bizarre. But I'm saying at the end, let's just chant Hare Krishna together.
Well, you can have differences, that's okay. But why not chant Hare Krishna together? You know, congregation.
Yeah, but it was just fascinating to put that book together and understand the kind of myriad of mats in the UK only.
It definitely needed to be done. It was brilliant. It's brilliant. It's like it's a reference book as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to secure. It's not easy always. I'm trying to secure an interview from somebody from the Vaishnava Gora, who I think are in there, but they're a little bit eccentric in their practice of Krishna consciousness. But I'm trying to persuade one of them to come on the broadcast.
Where are they based?
There's only about 10 of them in the UK. They have their bases in Sweden, but they're acharyas in Sweden. But they have a number of.
Maraj is in Sweden right now.
Wow. Yeah, Tridani Maraj. I have tried to invite Chaitanya College on this show. I am waiting.
He said he's up for it.
I did message him and try and call him, but I know he's
hopeless on that line.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, he's learning, he's getting into it now, but
yeah,
you know, it's been a while. It's like we've had to really say, come on, get a phone, you know.
Well, he's the ideal sannyasi, isn't he? He's the perfect sannyasi. Yeah. He's not attached to his phone, is he? like
exactly.
I am, and you know,
so am I,
yeah.
But
So
he knows WhatsApp now, so you know I can chat with him and stuff. And he's just shown me he's in
ah,
Copenhagen today, on the beach. You know,
I'm gonna WhatsApp him.
working.
I'm gonna WhatsApp him.
Yeah,
Maybe he'll be the next guest on the podcast. Sweden.
that's
wow,
right, yeah.
I haven't been to Sweden for
That'd
about
be
7
great.
years. Okay. Prabhuji, it's been fantastic to have you as the guest this week.
Thanks for having me on. It's been great.
I'll just say goodbye to everyone watching. It's been great to have Paramananda Prabhu on the show this week to chat about his background, his story. And every devotee's got a story to tell. So often I'll ring a devotee or I'll text a devotee and say, hey, do you want to come on the podcast? And quite a few devotees say, well, I don't feel qualified. I said, well, it's not about qualification. It's about you and your story. And, you know, I'm not going to ask you any trick questions about what does it say in Canto 8 of the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yeah,
because I don't know myself. Yeah, it's about your story. Yeah, definitely.
It's been great being on.
Thank you for coming. Really, really appreciate it. So to everyone watching or listening, if you're watching this on YouTube, please do put a positive comment. Please do like it. Please do share the link. And if you're watching it on Facebook, please do share it. Put a positive comment or use one of the positive emojis or such as like, care, or love. Hopefully you're not angry about your hair. And you know, please do give some feedback. This is episode 41 of the Hare Krishnas in Britain podcast. And if there's something you want to see or a particular devotee you want to invite on the show, please do let me know. So thanks for watching. And until next time, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.